We are talking to Willie Aames and his life coach, Sarano Kelley. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Very good to talk to you guys. Let's first fill people in on what's going on here. You've got a show called Broke and Famous. Willie, what's up with life, and what's the show all about?
Well, I think I'm the broke part of that, and Serrano's the famous part.
Okay. Excellent.
No, I don't think it's any secret that, the last couple of years have been very difficult for me. And, I went through a bankruptcy and a divorce and a home foreclosure and actually got to the point where I was homeless. I was living in parks and I was sleeping in parking garages. And at that time, VH1 came to me with a project that they said they weren't sure if I was going to be interested in, but it was exploring what happens when celebrities really end up in dire circumstances. And they assured me that it may be a painful process, but that they really wanted to do a show that was different from other reality shows in that they wanted to move celebrities out of those situations and not just exploit the bad part. Mm-hmm. And I agreed to do it, and they introduced me to this guy named Sarano Kelley, whom I affectionately call my pet dragon. And Sarano takes me through the basics of addressing the root causes of how somebody ends up in that situation, but then moves me through to a new portion of my life. And it was a very painful, very revealing process, but one that I'm so glad that I submitted myself to.
Yeah, I'm going to get to...
I like to think of it, Big J, as a cage match.
Okay.
Because I must say that from the moment I climbed in with Willie, I went on a very wild ride and an amazing ride by the end, because what Willie does in 7 days and what he does in 9 months, I think, will actually literally shock people and as well as bring them to tears.
Well, I mean, what do you think the deal is? Like, and this is for both of you, and I want to get to you in a little bit here, Sarano, like more of how, you turned his life around here, but like, how do you go from being on the top to being so far down? Like, I mean, you made decent money on Charles in Charge and the TV shows, right, Willie?
Well, yes, actually, I made a lot of money throughout. I started acting when I was 9 years old, and Charles in Charge was my 13th or 14th network series. But what I look at when I look at the past is it's not just about celebrities. We're doing this as a nation. Mm-hmm. What I found in this whole process was that growing up, I was never educated about money. I was never taught about money. And in fact, not caring about money became kind of a badge. And I think a lot of us in our country wear that. And what happens is in taking that sort of a badge on, you purposely neglect the responsibility of learning how it all works. So when we look at that as a country, what I found is that I was completely ill-equipped to handle any sum of money, not just large sums of money.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make any difference if it was $1,000 or $100,000. I was not educated, and nor did I take the time to educate myself on how that works. How do you use it? What is the proper way? How do you respect it?
So, Sarano, this is what I want to ask you. I mean, you obviously, for people that don't know, I mean, you graduated college at a very young age. You were very financially successful, and I mean, obviously savvy at this stuff. I grew up like in a home with not good financial practices and stuff, and I taught myself because I didn't like, not having money and not having, money to fall back on and things like that. I just taught myself what I needed to do to be good with money. But like for somebody like my producer who doesn't understand money and doesn't understand saving and investing and anything like that, like how do you teach somebody or like open their eyes to like, whoa, you gotta figure this out?
That's the problem that the show raises, because the reality is whether you have good finances or bad finances, it's largely an accident because people aren't trained. I mean, you can talk to someone about any number of subjects, even controversial subjects. People talk about sex, but you don't ask people about their money. It's hard to be good at something that we can't even talk about. Mm-hmm. And what Willie does an amazing job of is really being willing to share the personal pain and angst that we all go through. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. And then at the same time, as we see how intense he is and how tough he is, which initially is kind of directed against me. But And when he begins to direct that against his financial issues, it's just, watch out. It's just amazing to see what happens. But for most people, without really some kind of outside incident, whether it's a bad experience or a good experience, most people won't ever take the time to really look at what's going on in their finances and what's underneath their financial challenges.
Okay, so there's nothing like you can say, like you can't shake somebody and say you're an idiot and have them turn it around or something. There's no quick fix.
Well, I did my version of that, which is I sat Willie down outside and put out a whiteboard and said, how does a moron like you lose like $1 million? And, at first I would imagine he had to be offended, but knew that I was kind of getting at something. And as we took $1 million and really divided that down, and I even drew like $1, we could see that there was soap between he paid, taxes and management fees. If a person, whatever it is that you think you earn as you're listening to me, you're probably like me. You go around, you think, that's what I make. That's not what you make. Mm-hmm. If you really net down to what you really, really get to see, that's a very different number. And as a country and as individuals, we have a hard time relating to that reality. In fact, most of us don't do the homework to know the reality, and that's what Willie had to do.
I see what you're... At least Willie... I mean, you talk about how he blew big money and stuff. Like, at least he had a good excuse because he had drugs. Drugs can be expensive. Like, my producer doesn't even do drugs, and he can still blow large sums of money. I would say Willie's got a better excuse.
The reason... One of the great things about Willie stepping forward on this is that it's maybe easier to see with $1 million, but the way a person relates to a penny tells you everything about how they relate to money. So it doesn't really matter the sum. It's just easier to see it if it's a large personality and a large sum of money. Mm-hmm. But if you look down into the details, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And how you treat a penny is how you relate to money.
And, I want to jump in. As you were saying, at least he had drugs and he had an excuse. It doesn't make any difference whether it's drugs, and that wasn't necessarily the thing. Mm-hmm. But what about the cars? What about overspending at the grocery store? What about not caring about how much you spend on a vacation that you really can't afford?
Yeah.
What about giving away money that you can't afford, Willie?
Yeah, exactly. Giving money to people and taking care of people when you know you can't afford it yourself. The reason I bring this up is because it's so easy to say it was the sex, drugs, rock and roll lifestyle that wiped me out. It wasn't. That was a part of it, definitely. But what wipes you out is when you haven't taken the time to really sit and look and see where your money goes on the day-to-day level. Because, it's so important for people to understand. Right now, I can keep a $5 bill in my pocket for a month. Because every time I go into a store, I think, do I really need that? Mm-hmm. Do I really need that? Is that just an urge? Is that an impulse? Do I really need it? Can I really afford to go take an extra 2 days in New York? No. I mean, here's the example. I have to go to New York to do some talk shows. The temptation is I'll stay an extra day or two and see friends.
Yeah.
Really afford that? No. You know what? Go do your business and come right back.
It makes sense. It's a good, like you said, this isn't just, for millionaires, and it's not just about Willie Aames. It's about everybody. So, if anybody needs, I think it's a good show for anybody to watch. If you're good with money, it's fun to see Willie Aames, and what he's going through, and Sarano's good advice. And also, if you're bad with money, it's kind of good to see, how it affects other people and the advice that helps out. So check it out, Broken Famous, tomorrow, 8 o'clock on VH1. Willie Aames, Sarano Kelley, thanks so much for joining us this morning, guys, and best of luck, Willie, in the future, man.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Bye. He's a cokehead, and that's where his money went. I don't care what he says.
The Big J Show. Weekday mornings from 6 till 10 on Billings' #1 hit music station, Hot 101.9.